1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is Brent Smith. I have the interesting Andrew Francis on camera with me today, and this is SafariLIVE. As you can see, we were waiting for the sun to pop up above those clouds, but unfortunately it's still buried. But there's quite a lot of moisture. We can feel the dew on the vehicle already this morning, and nice and cool. So we're hoping the predators are out on the prowl, and we're going to be looking for Karula, the queen of Djuma. For those of you not sure who Karula is, she's the dominant female leopard in this area. We had tracks of her on the sunset safari yesterday, heading possibly towards Buffels Hook. So I'm going to start at Buffels Hook and move further to the south. On the other vehicle, we have the colourful James Henry and Tebs, and in final control, we have Geraldine and Louise. So let's get going, see what's out there. Bright and fresh, wonderful morning. I'm very excited, and I hope you guys are too. For those of you new, if you see my head hanging off the side of the vehicle, it means I'm looking for tracks, generally of your bigger predators, lion, leopard, wild dog, and cheetah. And yesterday we didn't have any of the big predators, so I'm hoping this morning we can a little bit of leopard and luck. And while we continue on to that area where Karula's tracks were last, sorry, let me just check this quickly. No, it's just an elephant dragging its foot. Not a drag mark of a leopard kill. So let's go see what Commander Bond is up to this morning.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to Jigger, the second vehicle out this morning. We are on the far western side of Djuma. My name is James Henry, and on camera we have Tebs. There's his thumb. And our plan this morning is to drive about the place and try and find some tracks, and perhaps of a leopard, perhaps of wild dogs, who knows, perhaps a lion. I've forgotten what they look like, in fact. And we'll just see what we can come up with. Otherwise, on the way, there'll be some interesting things. So Brent is in the far east, I'm in the far west. You could think of it as me being in Hawaii and Brent being in Japan, if you like. And he's going to look around there for the leopard, and I'll be over here seeing what we can find. You are on a live safari, of course, as Brent told you. So please do talk to us. Send us your questions and your comments. Hashtag SafariLIVE if you're tweeting, and questions at WildEarth.tv if you are on the email. Brent's finding some tracks. It's good news. Now, there is a wonderful smell about this morning, and I think it's because it's quite cool, and there seems to be a lot of sort of subtle scent coming off the ground and off the vegetation. There was obviously a bit of dew last night, so it feels quite close, the air, and there's a big bank of clouds moving in from the southwest. Whether that will bring any rain or not, I'm pretty sure it won't, but let's see what happens as we go along. And so the smell around the morning is a very sort of, it's subtle, like I say, moisture laden, quite sweet. It's a little bit like sort of a subtle fresh herb of some description. It's very nice indeed. So that's the plan. Welcome to it. Tracks of plenty of hyenas all the time, up and down the roads. If we want to see them, we just pop across the den, and there they entertain us. Tracks of waterbuck, wildebeest, and alas, no large cats. I'm slightly at a loss to explain why it is that we don't ever see lions here anymore. I've no doubt that will change. But sometimes these cycles could sort of go in months, and I remember being told that once, I think at the beginning of last year, beginning of this year, they went 2 months without one big 5 sighting. Now quite something. Thankfully, we haven't got there, and we'll cross fingers and hold thumbs that it hasn't get to that stage. Plenty of buffalo tracks around here. And we're just going to drive very slowly along. The light is still not great, and so we don't want to miss tracks by driving too fast. You can see the muck on the road. That kind of movement there is a small herd of buffalo that we saw last night. It's Brent on the Game Drive channel updating the world as to leopard tracks that he's got. Justin, you're tweeting to us like a Sabota lark, which is good news, and you say good morning and welcome to everybody. Yes, indeed, good morning. Another wonderful morning, like you say, in the African wild. And what we're going to do is just pull into this slight little viewpoint here. I'll show you this bank of cloud coming in, and we'll just have a listen to see if any panicked antelope or alarm calling, perhaps some potential predators. At the moment, however, all is quiet. A mammal in sight, nor is there a bird. Right, we'll stop just over here. And there you can get an idea of the clouds as they build from the east. Not so much the southwest. Now, whether that will come over here, I'm not sure. But the sun has just peeped up behind that bank. Isn't that beautiful? And all is very still and quiet. Not an enormous dawn chorus. I'll tell you what I can hear. Let's just sit quietly for 20 seconds. You can hear the drongos. Chitty-choo, chitty-choo. It's the fork-tailed drongo. Spot batters. Hornbill behind us. Black-crowned chagger. Rattling testicular. G. Black-headed oriole. Beautiful. Now, there's a very sort of strident whistling there. Tebs, can you see that blackbird there sitting in the tree? Oh, it's just flown off, of course. It's still in the tree there. Can you see the one I mean? In the silver cluster leaf? It's flown off. I don't know what that was. Maybe a black cuckoo shrike. Then there is a black-bellied bustard just over here. Let's just drive around the corner. There it is. Not a black-bellied bustard, it's a red-crested corhan. And they're very, very clever at hiding. Right, Tebs, in this gap here, there's a bird on the ground with a long neck. There he is. That is the red-crested corhan. No, it's not. It's a black-bellied bustard. It was what I thought it was. That most astonishing call. It's also called champagne bird because of that cork-popping sound that it makes. What? Let's see if he does it again. I find it thoroughly amusing. All the time you can hear that chagra going down in the valley. Here he goes. See if he calls. He'll be looking for insects, small reptiles, possibly the odd frog. Now, a very interesting question while we wait to see if this chap calls again. Catherine, he's found something to eat. Catherine, on Twitter, you want to know about European bee-eaters, and do we see them here? We do see them here, Catherine. I think we're not seeing them as much as we might, simply because there hasn't been that much rain, and therefore the number of insects in the area is perhaps not as high as it normally is. And so European bee-eaters, which survive by hawking insects out of the air, have possibly moved to slightly wetter areas. They don't nest here. They just sort of visit the area over the course of the summer. Otherwise, they're in Europe for breeding. And I suspect... Here he goes. No. He looks like he's going to call, and then he doesn't. And I always think that it's interesting, the back of his head looks like the back of an Egyptian or king cobra's head. And I'm sure that is, with design, because he's obviously quite a vulnerable fellow, not being the fastest bird in the world. And I'm sure potential predators might think, as he walked through the long grass, that was a cobra walking along, and therefore best to be avoided. So, Catherine, yes, European bee-eaters around, but I think because of the drought, not a huge amount for them to eat here. You wouldn't think that if you were sitting around at night and you had a light on. Certainly there seem to be quite a few insects, but not as many as we might find normally. Right, let's carry on. Alice in Ohio, I share your wish. You say that it's been raining for 3 days continuously in Ohio, and you wish you could send some of that this way. We wish you could send some of that this way too. Thank you, Alice. Brian and James Taylor, you're wondering about the lions, and there's a little Senegal lapwing. See the bird running along the ground there, Tebs? Let's just watch that. I'll answer the question about the lions. Brian, you think that you want to know why there are no lions here? Could it be that the drought? No, Brian, it's got nothing to do with the drought. It's got everything to do with the Birmingham boys and the fact that they've chased everything around, and so everything's kind of running scared. The Nkahuma pride, this dovetails quite nicely with James Taylor's question about why they all seem to be on coral. I don't think they are. I just think that they have for the last little while. The Nkahuma pride is making forays back into its traditional territory from the Kruger National Park into Nkoro, and with any luck, hopefully back here. But they used to provide the bulk of our lion viewing, and then the Birmingham boys arrived, killed off 3 of their lionesses, and they've been running scared ever since. And this, of course, was the core of their territory, and that's why they're not around here. The Salala pride came up briefly. They kind of occupied this territory for a little while, then they disappeared again in the face of the threat from the Birmingham boys. And so this is just kind of a lion-free zone. It's a bit of a vacuum at the moment. It will fill up again. There's no question. I don't think it's got anything to do with the drought either. So let's see what happens over the next few months. That's called a Senegal lapwing. It used to be known as a lesser black-winged plover. You can now hear the kingfishers going. Strident calls. With all the birds, thank you very much. And you enjoyed the chagger as well. Yeah, we had a lovely sighting of the chagger yesterday. 2 kinds of chagras that we get here. And here's some wattled starlings. It's an amazing sight. Naturally, they won't sit for us. There are a whole lot of them coming here. Flock of wattled starlings. They've disappeared. They have escaped Tebs' eye. Ah, well done, Tebs. And there you can hear the crested barbet. Unsurprisingly known as the alarm clock bird. When I was living in Johannesburg, the Cape robin used to provide me with a great deal of comfort because it was an attachment to the wilderness. But that crested barbet as well used to do the same. And look at them, look at these beautiful wattled starlings here, sitting in a line. Aren't they stunning? And these are nomadic birds, so not migratory, nomadic, which means that sometimes they're here and sometimes they're just not. They go wherever there's food. And we were listening to them call yesterday, and they sound like sort of a little litter of puppies almost. It's really quite bizarre. And I'm sure they've found some termites, possibly some harvester termites that are sitting about there, still collecting bits of dry grass and twigs that they're going to pull down into their burrow. Lots to listen to today, not quite so much to see, but that's okay. Driving gently along this road, finding it's very peaceful indeed. Hello Jan in Michigan, very nice question while we look at the kind of clouds as they build up there in the southeast. Jan, you want to know where our weather normally comes from? Jan, it depends entirely on the time of year, and it depends on what kind of system is coming in. So if we get frontal weather that comes in from, in fact, actually it often comes in all the way from the Cape or from Natal, it comes in from the southeast there, south or southeast, and kind of makes its way around the corner of the eastern coast of the country and then comes up south, up the kind of valley of the low veld and skips the high veld sometimes. And while the high veld then will get sort of chilly weather, we get the cloud that comes through. Then when the storms build, we get big storms. They'll come in from the northwest quite often. They'll sort of roll in off the mountains, and then they'll sort of dump on the area here. And then the end of summer, much like in the US where you get the hurricanes coming off the Caribbean, you get cyclones sometimes come in off Mozambique and through the Mozambican Channel between Madagascar and the Mozambique coast, at the east coast, and those big storms can really build up, and then they'll blow in from due east, but then it's a big storm, it's not a front. So the frontal weather comes almost exclusively from the southeast. The big storms might come from the east or from the northwest. No big storms really this year. We've had one or two sort of nice dumpings of rain, not much really. As you can see from the dryness of this landscape, I mean, it really does look like a September landscape. And I saw a picture this morning of some of the farms in the Free State, which is where it's the breadbasket of South Africa. They make all of our, they grow all of our food there. It's not looking good. But Africa has been prone to drought and floods throughout the years, and for the ecology of the area, while it's not great for us human beings, the ecology will survive, and some of the animals will definitely suffer for it, but that's normal. It's entirely normal. sure that I did say this, but I may well have. Let's just have a look in the book. You say that I have told you that the wattle in the wattled starling is only used for breeding. What happens to it afterwards? Well, that's a very good question. I think they've actually got the wattle all the time, but you've made me think twice. So let's have a look-see. The wattled starling. Where are you? There you are. So there's the wattled starling, number 1 there. And the breeding male, no, you're absolutely right, the wattle is not there. It just probably disappears. I don't know if it falls off or becomes less of a swelling. So that's a breeding male there. I would imagine all that happens is it's like a sack of fat, Julia, and so I think it's probably just reabsorbed into the body. And then during the breeding time, those little pouches will start to sort of swell again. Very good question. I hadn't even thought of that. Thank you, Julia. So many of the questions we get asked here are things that I haven't thought of before. And that's why it's such a wonderful learning experience. For me, probably just as much as it is for you. If not more so. I've got thousands of teachers. There is our first mammal of the day, Tebs. A grey or common duiker disappearing into the bush. Mammal. We'll just roll gently down. I can't wait for the day that we can do this in an electric vehicle and it can be quiet. Also a vehicle, of course, unlike Jigger, who's actually not able to roll down even a 90-degree slope. So that was a little common duiker. Most fearsome of predators, but can be quite vicious if you corner them. Any animal out here, even the humble steenbok, will become fairly nasty if you corner them. So while most animals here present no real threat to human beings, if you corner anything out here, it will fight back. It's just the same as a human being. Also an impala. Really, the action is becoming overwhelming now. Look at that, Tebs. There we go. And while we're looking at the impala, that are just enjoying the dawn light and possibly a small browse and graze. They can do both, of course, browse and graze. Very few animals can. Jose, you're in Virginia, and you want to know about the lions and how often the prides change. Jose, it's quite a sort of fluid situation, if you like. So the lions will come into an area. The pride makeup will change all the time. So cubs will be born, males will leave, some females will die. They'll be replaced by youngsters coming up through the ranks in the pride. And I think that chap is marking territory there, although it's not really a territory so much as just an advertisement that he's around. There we go. Thank you for that demonstration. So, Jose, if we take the example of a pride like the Sparta Pride at Londolozi, that pride has been called the Sparta Pride, and they have for the last, say, 15 years, more, probably 20 years. But obviously none of the original lions that were originally named in that pride are still alive. So it's changed constantly over the years. If we look at our own Nkuhuma Pride, or what used to be our own Nkuhuma Pride, hopefully will be again our Nkuhuma Pride soon. Now 5 lionesses, 1 young male. That young male is probably not going to be with them for long, so that'll be 5 lionesses. When I started here, it was 7 lionesses. 2 of them have died subsequently. I'm sure I know they've been mating with those Birminghams, so there should be some cubs fairly soon. So the makeup of the prides change all the time. And Jose, they will just disappear only when the whole pride dies. So if one of the prides where I used to work at Ngala was called the Lamula Pride, and the Lamula Pride eventually did die out because she became one lioness, and then when she died, it left a vacuum, and then a new pride will come into the area and it will be renamed, and that's basically how it works. So it's a fairly fluid situation, but the pride themselves can last for, many, many years. Right, let's go across to Brent Smith and get an update on his tracking, and we will continue gently along this road.
So unfortunately, we've been hot on the trail of a male leopard. We are on our eastern boundary. Where's that track? Can you see it, Andrew? Negative. Okay, go zoom in where you are. Where's that piece of... Okay, let's get some focus, please, Andrew. Okay, zoom in again. To the left. Back towards us. Down, 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 down. There we go. To the left, other left. There we go. There's the male leopard track in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Oh, there we go. Andrew has found it. And unfortunately, that crosses east out of our traverse zone. And very fresh track, so we couldn't have been too far behind him. But unfortunately, he is left. And we're going to go see where we had Karula's tracks yesterday on the Sunset Safari and see if we get a little bit more luck with the ladies than with the gents. And just let the game drivers know. Stations and Kwanzaa Ingwe cross east at Pipeline Road onto Pipeline Road in Torchwood. I'm leaving the area. Absolutely stunning morning here out in the African bushveld. We are currently driving on Djuma Private Game Reserve. We're in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. It's 60,000 hectares, about 120,000 acres. And let's just have a quick look here. Just zebra tracks, unfortunately, and hyena tracks, and it is a part of about an 8 million acre unfenced wilderness area that composes of the greater or the Kruger National Park, the private reserves surrounding, and the transfrontier parks in Mozambique and Zimbabwe. So although we have boundaries that we have to adhere to, fortunately the animals don't, so they're able to meander at will. Does make for exciting times with lots of different animals around. Oh, isn't this quite a cute little track we've got here? A tiny baby hippo track. So mom has been walking in front, and then you've got these tiny little baby tracks. And you can see he's very lazy. He's obviously walked quite far. And because of the drought we're experiencing at the moment, the hippos are having to put distance from water to food. And you can see he's got tired and he started dragging his toes in the sand. Shame. Poor little hippo had to walk far last night. And he got lazy. You can almost imagine like a petulant child. Mom, I'm tired. And starts dragging his feet. Now, while we continue to search for leopard tracks, I'm sure Jimps or Commander Bond is going to keep you entertained, and hopefully we'll be back with a spotted feline.
Hello everybody, we're still taking a very sedate drive down now towards Treehouse Dam. There's a little bird on the road here. There it is, flying away, very irritating bird. Let's just kind of... Most cars, you know, if you're on a slope like that, they'll roll. Not the aging and arthritic joints in Jigger. I think it was a little cinnamon-breasted bunting. It goes. We won't ask Tebs to try and track the cinnamon-breasted bunting through flight. Sedate pace we are keeping today, keeping an eye out for any tracks that there might be on the ground, any birds gratefully received, likewise any mammals. And the sun is just kind of making a vague attempt to peep up. Blackbird there. PK, you're in Iowa City, and we're just chatting about lions this morning, and you want to know if the Nkahuma Pride had cubs and Junior was still with them. Now Junior is a 3.5-year-old male. Would he kill them? No, I don't believe he would, because he's part of the pride. He's not a territorial male yet. That is a square-tailed drongo. That's interesting. Normally the fork-tailed drongo, and that one, of course, doesn't have a forked tail, but a square tail. Therefore, the square-tailed drongo. Difficult to name the drongos, difficult to get your head around them all. He's that one there. You can see a very slight fork. Not very common. Maybe a black flycatcher, in fact. Well, it could have been either, right? It could have been a square-tailed drongo or a black flycatcher. The difference being that the square-tailed drongo is not common at all, but they do have that slightly sort of indented tail, but so does the black flycatcher. Let's just see where they sit. That often is quite a nice way to tell. That's mid-stratum, so that was definitely on the mid-stratum of the tree. Woodland thornflesh perch, typical flycatcher fashion. I'm not sure. It's most likely to have been a black flycatcher, but I didn't get a good enough look. But it could have been a square-tailed drongo. Nice. Those are the only 4 black birds that we get out here. Completely black on that page. The fork-tailed drongo, square-tailed drongo, black flycatcher, black cuckoo shrike. Black cuckoo shrike we do see. Very common. The blue waxbill marco, you're in New Jersey, you want to know what a blue waxbill sounds like. There are some Franklins. The blue waxbill, oh, he's eating a cucumber. The blue waxbill marker is a very gentle whistle. Just that orange thing, can you see it there, Ted? That's what the Franklin was sampling there. I might have to go and fetch that. Let's see. So this is one of the cucumber species, I think. I'll show you a picture in the book. And they're normally a creeper growing in a tree, and this fruit is toxic to us. We wouldn't eat that. Apparently the squirrels can eat them, and I suspect that this has been devoured by a squirrel. or maybe another francolin, but you saw the francolin trying to investigate whether this was going to be edible or not, and clearly it wasn't. Now there is a beautiful ant, and this ant is known as a Polyrhynchus ant. I'm not mistaken, and Polyrhynchus tastes like a lemon drop. I'm not going to eat her. It is Polyrhynchus, and they're identifiable by the little white hairs that they have all over the abdomen, and two sort of protective spikes that they have coming out between the thorax and the abdomen. Yeah, that's exactly what this is. Polyrhynchus ant. And if you can, obviously many of you will find something like this completely distasteful, but you can take the ant and you can actually suck off the back end of it, and it tastes like a beautiful little lemon drop.
Morning, Craig. Cross east at Parkline Junction with Cut.
Marvellous. Little voyage of discovery that we're going on here.
Thanks, Brent. It was morning full time or yesterday?
And now all the game drives are starting to get mobile from the various lodges about the place. The guests have been shoveled out of bed, given intravenous caffeine injections, and they're now going on drive. I think that this is half an hour, maybe 45 minutes too late for them to be going on drive, given how high the sun is already. It's such a beautiful day. It's such a shame to come out here and miss the dawn. Brazos, you want to know how many questions I field in a day? Probably about 784, I think. What do you think, Tebs? I don't know, Brazos. I really enjoy it though, because, and I didn't so much, to be completely honest with you, when I was guiding people on a normal safari, because as I said a few days ago, the questions you get when you're on a normal safari are kind of a reset. It becomes like Groundhog Day, where you get the same questions every few days from new people, and it's so important as a guide. This is why many people don't survive long as guides, and B, why it needs to be drummed into the heads of new guides. But people come out here, and often it's a once-in-a-lifetime holiday that they're coming on, and they come into the African wild, and they're so fascinated by it. And I mean, we are obviously massively grateful for any guests that come out here, because they allow us to live this lifestyle of, you know, living in the bush, so we don't have to go and sit at desks. And even though, so I mean, we're tremendously grateful for them, but then they get on the vehicles and they will ask very similar questions. Well, why shouldn't they? Of course they will. And I found that quite difficult, and people find it quite tiring, because it does become a bit like Groundhog Day. But I found on these drives, with so many more people watching, the stimulating questions that I get are just fantastic. And you have the scope to talk about so many more things and discover so many more things with such a much larger audience. Alyssa, you are astounded by my bravery at finding the ant in that in that cucumber. And you say that I was very brave not to leap, and that I must have known it had been in there, because if an ant had come out of something like that with you, you would have jumped. There are just a lot more scary things out here than there are ants. And once you get used to the bugs and the insects, you realize that very few of them can do any harm whatsoever. And so when you do feel that creepy, crawly kind of feeling on your skin, it doesn't really affect you. Let's go across to Brent. He's got a nice bird to show you.
So we unfortunately spotted a Birchall's cuckoo that disappeared. But what we're doing is we're sitting quietly, listening, hoping for the sounds of alarm calls, enjoying the dawn chorus. So quite often your ears are far more important in finding big cats than your eyes. And you'll hear an alarm call. It could be from anything from the tiniest little bird, a waxbill or a testicular, to a great load of trumpeting by an elephant. And a lot of that stuff can lead you to potential predator sightings. So it's always good to switch off and listen. And it is such a beautiful morning today. Oh, there's a go-away bird. Down, left, there we go. A grey go-away bird. One of the loudest members of the avian family out here at Djuma, and doing a bit of morning plimping and preening. Look at that. You can see quite a robust beak, designed mostly for eating fruit. Giving itself a very good clean this morning. Lots of different birds. We can hear some canaries, testiculars. But let's go see what else is out there. We haven't found any tracks of Karula yet, but we are looking. The last tracks we had were just off in this little system of dry riverbeds and drainage lines to the south of us. So I'm hoping her general direction last night would have been north. Let's see if we can find one of these little guys making lots of noise. Here we go. Nice bird. It could be a new one for a lot of our viewers who are keeping a bird list. Oh no, don't fly away! Oh, Murphy's Law. And a pair of ground scraper thrushes. Come on, Andrew, be better. Yeah, Disney apologizes. Hopefully the elephants decide to make an appearance again. They've been vacant for the last couple of days, and I've only seen tracks of a single bull that crossed straight out. Very good morning to a beautiful sunshiny day here in the African Lowveld, and we've got a question from Purple Rain. Purple Rain would like to know, do we have cobras here, and if so, how many species? We do. I'm busy battling with a Mozambique spitting cobra at the moment, just checking down the road. Unfortunately, nothing there. At my house, and we're trying to remove him or her, but it's a particularly big one. Oh, well, we chat about cobras. There's a lilac-breasted roller. So apart from the Mozambique spitting cobra, which is the most common one we have here, we also get Egyptian cobra, and there's a very small chance, probably not up here in the northern Sabi Sands, but in the southern Sabi Sands, we might get a forest cobra along the rivers. But it is a very small chance. Let me just, there you go. So the two cobra species we get here for definite, the most common of the two is the Mozambican spitting cobra. Quite a pretty snake. There we go. Very pretty snake, and it has got a combination, a cocktail of venoms. It's got a cytotoxic, mostly cytotoxic, which causes cell destruction, but it also has some neurotoxic venom as well. There we go. Andrew is now super zoomed in on the snake. And then the other one we get is the snouted cobra, or used to be called the Egyptian cobra. And this is a neurotoxic venom. And they have lots of different color variations in the snouted. If we come down a little bit there, Andrew, you can see there's another one. And then my favorite variation that I've never seen in the Sabi Sands, but I've seen not too far from here in the Timavati, is the banded version of the snouted cobra. Very, very pretty snake. And one must remember, the snakes are often far more scared of us than we are of them. So we're going to continue looking for this leopard. Hopefully we find some tracks. In the meantime, let's go back to the very colourful James Hendry.
So while the inimitable Brent Leo Smith rushes about the far east, Japan, we're still in mid-Hawaii here in the west, and we're looking at a beautiful sunrise to the west there, east, sorry, that's where the sun comes up. Isn't that beautiful? And I just wanted to take a quick photograph of it, what with it being so stunning. I'm, of course, the world's greatest landscape photographer. That's how I like to describe myself. I'm actually an appalling photographer. Brent said to me the other day, he said, you know, your framing does need a bit of work. That's like, well, I mean, that was quite subtle for Brent. Brent is not known for his subtlety. And basically what he was saying is, don't quit your day job. There we go. That's a brilliant photograph, don't you think, Tebs? I think it might be the world's greatest sunrise photograph. Look at that, everyone. World class. Possibly be a National Geographic cover shot. You can't even see it there. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry says she thinks it's very lovely. Thanks, Jerry. I think it's magnificent as well. I've now, of course, lost my lens cap, which is going to result in me saying nasty words. No, I found it. There we go. We're okay. On we go. We've been sitting here at Treehouse Dam for the last little while Brent was telling you about his roller and his tracking expedition. And we have seen one hornbill, and there's some impala up ahead having a little bit of a fight. Let's just go and have a look there. They're the only other things that we've seen here. But I'm just feeling a very pleasantly happy in this wonderful dawn light. The sun's just touching my face. It's like having liquid gold poured into your ear. Well, gentle liquid gold makes you feel very golden. So there's some impala there that looks like it's going to come and have a drink, so we'll just wait there. But those two are having a fight in front of us. Yes, Bethany and Virginia, you have precisely and completely accurately described how I feel. You say, do I feel like all the animals have sort of left this area? They're all sitting on the borders having an enormous pool party and excluding us. That's you as well, of course, and the birds from it. It's precisely how I feel. On Buffelshoek yesterday, they had 2 cheetah, a pride of lions, a leopard sighting, I think. They had the wild dogs yesterday. And all the lions have been there. The Birmingham boys haven't been through here for goodness knows how long. They walked on and then walked off, and I mean, Brent got so excited he was tracking them, and they just kind of turned round and walked straight back out again. It was extremely unkind of them. Those 2 impala having a bit of a rut. A very strange time for them to be doing it. guess sometimes they just get irritated with each other. I don't think that's a territorial dispute. And there isn't a strict dominance hierarchy as far as we understand it in the bachelor herds. So quite why they should be having a nasty fight with each other, I'm not sure. Started off a pretty cool morning. It's starting to get quite warm quite quickly. Started off at 20 degrees, 67 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it's probably built up to about 23 so far. You'd think after all of this time that I would be able to tell you exactly what every degree in Celsius was in Fahrenheit, but no, I still have to try and work it out. Right, on we go. So you're in Finland, of course, and I still don't know where in Finland you are, so please let us know which part of that rather chilly country you find yourself. Hopefully not too chilly. You say that once a presenter asked what bird that was, and you gave up the answer as a square-tailed drongo, and that presenter made a cardinal error. And that error is to say that they are never found in this area. Any guide or presenter who says something is never found somewhere is setting himself up for an enormous face full of egg, because we just don't understand how animals move enough to say that. Yes, it is unlikely that you will see a square-tailed drongo here, and that's why I'm not sure that that one was. I'm pretty sure it was a black flycatcher. But there is no way that you can ever say you'll never see a square-tailed drongo here. I've seen them around. I haven't seen them on this particular reserve, unless that was one. But I've seen them around here. And so, yeah, you've got to be very careful about saying, that will never happen out here. The number of times I've done that, and you go around the next corner, and it's like the wilderness is playing with you and saying, don't try and tell me what I can and can't do. And there you will find whatever it is that you said is never found here. So, Raisa, I don't think it's impossible that you saw a square-tailed drongo in the slightest. Lyle in Washington, you want to know if we ever sort of have tourists staying in camp. Do we ever interact with tourists? That isn't a tourist, of course. That is a tawny eagle. I think it's a tawny. Let's just watch him carefully. It might be a juvenile steppe. I'm pretty sure it's a tawny. Let's just watch him briefly. Just look at his gape. Check at the extension of the gape beyond the eye. Now, on a tawny eagle, the gape will go to the front of the eye. On a steppe eagle, it will go beyond the middle of the eye. It will go further back. The gape is that sort of line of yellow lips, if you like. I'm not convinced. I'm going to keep looking at him. And Elaine, you say that you're coming out here in next year, just for 8 days. To Kruger, and you say that the live safaris have made you very excited about that. I'm very glad, Elaine. Lyle in Washington, we don't. Sometimes guests come through to say hello to us. We'll kind of give them a show around the final control room and meet them, but we don't ever have guests staying in camp. And I think that's quite important, because our camp, of course, is, oh look, there's a drongo come to say hello. Basically to say go away to the large bird. Yeah, it's a tawny eagle. I'm happy that the gape doesn't extend too far away. And he's also got that fairly distinct black sort of tip to the wing, or to the top of the wings, to the shoulders, which gives him like a V down his back. And that's why I'm pretty sure what he is a tawny eagle. This is where a decent pair of binoculars is extremely helpful, as is the super zoom on the little camera. Andrew's with that camera at the moment, with Brent. I just want to show you what I mean here. Every piece of me is saying that that's a tawny eagle. There's a small creeping doubt in my mind, though, and I'll show you why. I mean, I'm 95% sure that that is a tawny eagle, 99% sure. The only other one it could be is a steppe eagle. No, it's not. Can't be. Could be. So here are the brown eagles, two of the brown eagles, and they're conveniently placed one above the other. There's the tawny there. The steppe there, and we had a wonderful sighting of a large steppe eagle yesterday. And when I talk about the gape, I'm talking about that yellow piece there. See the lips that move beyond the back of the eye, or beyond the middle of the eye. And if you look at a tawny eagle here, you can see that the gape does not do that. It stops in the front of the eye, or just beyond the front of the eye. A tawny is smaller, but only slightly smaller than a steppe, and so that might be a juvenile steppe eagle, but I'm 90% sure it's a standard issue tawny, and you can see those kind of black shoulders there, and they tend to look a bit more scruffy than the others. It just looks quite big to me, but I'm going to go with tawny eagle on that one if no one minds. Unless anybody's got a better idea, I think let's go with tawny eagle. We've had some pretty good birds today. Right, on we go. The tawny eagle, of course, is a bit of a scavenger, and so whenever we see one, it's a good idea to just look around to see if there aren't any other tawnies, perhaps a bateleur or two, and when you find a bateleur and tawny eagle in the same place, you'll be watching out for something dead on the ground. When they find all of the animals I can hear about. Well, there we go, X-Ranger. You're absolutely correct. You said, with regard to saying that you'll never find something in an area like this, who would have thought, during Big Cap Week there was a pineapple all over the place, X-Ranger? Yes, absolutely. Who would have thought you'd ever find a pineapple on safari? For those of you who don't know what X-Ranger's going on about, that was about a bingo item that we had during Bingo Safari. Joel, in New York, you say that I should say that there are no lions ever found on Djuma, because that would, with any likelihood, with any luck, inspire them to come onto the reserve in great numbers, and then we will see them. Well, I don't think it's too far wrong to say that we never see lions on the reserve. We haven't seen any for about 4 or 5 weeks. Maybe that would inspire the wilderness to toss egg on my face. I'll happily take a face full of egg if we see some lions. Where there are bears, there be bears there, and you want to know how I think a lion, a leopard, or an elephant would react to seeing a bear. I think an elephant would probably stare with great amusement and then possibly some fear. I think you'll find the bear would run away if it saw an elephant, though. I think a lion and a bear would be an interesting meeting. A bear, of course, is much bigger than a lion, so a bear, I don't think would, were they to have have a bit of a fight. I'm not sure that the lion would have a chance, to be honest. I think a bear is almost twice the size of a big male lion. A leopard would just slink away. Leopards do not. I think the chances of a brown Kodiak bear ever coming into contact with a lion, a leopard or an elephant are very small, though. Wonderful. Thank you, Claire in New York. You say yesterday you asked a question about the name given to the fact that impala had sort of got two colors, and that name you say is called counter-coloring, and it's meant to confuse predators when they move, so a bit like a zebra. It makes them look two-dimensional and not three-dimensional. I like that, actually. Thank you. I mean, I knew that the idea was to try and confuse predators, but to say that that confusion is caused by the animals looking rather more two-dimensional than three-dimensional, I think is great. Thank you for that, Claire. Let's head across to Brent. I think he's got that exploded eye impala to show you.
So we've caught up with the one-eyed bandit. It's an impala male we've been seeing quite frequently on the drives, and he has got a very wounded left eye, and he's only got one horn. He's almost like Admiral Nelson, except he's got a few more appendages. He's only got one eye and one horn. He still needs to lose a leg and have one ambition. There you go, you can see that injury is probably from fighting, which puts him at a huge disadvantage. And as we saw yesterday, he walks into branches on his left side. But fortunately, there are other impala around, and that's why he might survive, due to the fact that they live in herds, and he's got lots of other people looking out for him. Or not people, impalas. You can see quite nervous. I'm going to try to see if we can get a little bit closer so we can look at that eye. So unfortunately I'm in this very low area, so my radio comm is not great. Have a quick look at him and then I'll get higher. There we go, we should be able to utilize the double tap zoom quite effectively from this distance. There we go, we can see it's a terrible injury. And have a look, there's lots of flies around there, and there's quite a strong possibility there's already maggots feeding on that injury, which in some ways can be, you can see that flies actually landing on it. So in some ways, maggots can actually be beneficial to an injury like that. It'll eat the rotting flesh away before massive infection sets in. And looking at them there, apart from the actual injury itself, there is a little bit of swelling, but it's not really that bad. And we've watched as he feeds. It doesn't look like he's in too much discomfort. And so he keeps checking back to where the other impala are. Shame. The Treehouse Waterhole, and that fascinating spot where elephants have picked up on the underground water flowing down the seep line, and they've excavated two little water points. It's keeping a lot of the animals around this area. And you can see the ellies haven't been here for a while, but you can see how much other game has walked here. I'm just going to have a quick look, see if possibly any of the leopards have utilized it. I'll just have a quick look at the tracks. And you can see there's lots of tracks of impala, kudu, buffalo, and the water, even though it might look dirty from there, is actually crystal clear. So you're just looking at the brown on the bottom, and it's amazing. You can actually see once an animal's come in here and disturb the water, you can see where the water's seeping. But I think for it to carry on, the ellies are going to have to come re-excavate here. And some hyena tracks. And also, these seeps like this are great for the insects as well. Another one of the grasshopper species that mimics grass very well. Hold him gently before he jumps away. As soon as I let go of him, he's gone. So really trying to kick. So to not hurt a grasshopper, you want to hold the two back legs together just very gently. And there we go. Have a look at that. So you can see he's got the two antennae and the mouth part's quite clearly there. So this is a grasshopper, not a locust. Okay. And you're going to zoom out, Andrew. I'm going to let him go. And he's probably going to leap at... There we go. Oh, when's he going to jump? He's a bit confused now. See if you can get in on his eye maybe while he's sitting like that and my hand's not holding him. You don't want to move too close. Look at that. You can see that compact eye of an insect. It's amazing. And you can see the little teeth on his back legs. Now, those are actually a defense mechanism. Those little spikes, obviously, to something like me, my skin's quite thick, so I don't really get hurt when he kicks me. But if you were a small bird, those little spikes right on the edge of his back legs there could help you escape if you were a grasshopper kicking at a bird or kicking at a predatory insect or a spider. Oh, is he building up for the jump? Well, I'm sure he's going to jump shortly. Or he can be our mascot for a little bit before he decides to disappear. So as it's warming up, on Twitter, sorry, my comms are still a little bit bad in this area. On Twitter, I was talking about Admiral Nelson, and I'd like to know who that is. He was a famous British naval commander, and very famously, I think he was very instrumental in the fall of Napoleon, and during his different battles, etc. He lost one eye, one arm, and one leg. And there was a saying in the British Navy at that stage, or in England, about him. He had one eye, one arm, and one eye, one arm, one leg, and one ambition, and that was to defeat Napoleon. If I remember correctly, my history might be a little bit rusty, but that was Admiral Horatio Nelson. Grey hornbill, Andrew. Oh, off he goes. Unfortunately, he might stop again. Stop ahead. A wonderful piping call when they do call. Opposite him. Oh, no, he's still there. How's that, Andrew? A little bit forward. There we go. bright and sunny morning to Karen in Oregon and Wendy on Twitter, who would like to know how am I going to remove said spitting cobra from my house. Well, with us, hang on guys, something a bit more important. We have a very definite drag mark here, and not made by elephants. This is of a predator dragging a kill, and quite a big kill by the looks of things, probably an impala or an impala. Now, is it hyena or is it leopard? That's the question. Unfortunately, it's hyena, so possibly hyena have stolen a leopard kill. You can see, so what's happened, those massive neck muscles of that hyena have lifted this impala and it's dragged it down the road. And these lines here, and I'm going to actually go, it's a male impala, would be my guess. These lines here are from the hooves being dragged through the sand. And this is probably from a horn, a single horn, dragging there as well. But quite often when you see a track like this, it's likely that the hyena have stolen it from a leopard. So sometimes it is worth our while backtracking on these things. I just want to have a quick look. He carries on and heads off to the hyena den. So it is possible that this is stolen from a leopard, so we're going to carry on. And I just want to double check. Sometimes hyenas will follow a drag mark like this, although it does look like the hyena tracks are in the correct position. So they will follow a drag mark like this to find a leopard. They will get on the scent and just keep on it. And just double checking where the sand's soft enough that that isn't the case. But this, yeah, it definitely looks like either the hyenas have made a large kill of their own, which is not impossible. We know hyenas hunt actually quite often more than and more successfully than lions and leopards. So let's backtrack on these drag marks to see if possibly it leads us, probably if the kill's been stolen, not to a leopard itself, but at least to a set of leopard tracks that we can start following. There we go. Back to the snake question while I follow these tracks. So we've got a thing called a snake stick, which is for grabbing snakes without hurting them. And then when it comes to dealing with spitting cobras, I've got a pair of sort of safety goggles that I put over my eyes, so if the venom gets on my skin, it's not too much of a problem. But unless I've got any open wounds, but if it gets in my eye, it is a problem. So that's why I wear those safety goggles. And believe it or not, speaking about things that spit, quite funny. So when you're dragging something heavy like an impala, even an animal as strong as a hyena, Andrew, you need to take a rest. So this hyena's dragged the impala, had a sleep in the road, and then continued on. Again, I'm just making sure there are no leopard tracks around as well. It's still just hyenas. So a lot of people wonder why hyenas are built like they are, with that sloping back and that massive forequarters. This is one of the main reasons. So they're able to pick up an immense weight in their mouth and carry it for long distances. I mean, I followed a hyena drag mark for 5 kilometers. Marcy. Welcome to Safari Live. Marcy says she's heard us talk about cheetah, but she's never seen or us tracking one. I have tracked cheetah a few times here, Marcy. The problem is this is not ideal cheetah country. It's not too bad, but also cheetah have massive home ranges and wander far and wide. So they only pass through this area occasionally. So we don't find their tracks regularly enough that we track them regularly. But if there are tracks, trust me, Marcy, I'll be on them. Okay. This drag mark comes off this game path here, but we'll go around. There's another road there. See if it comes across from there. Comes across there. That hyena got a little bit confused for a while, and those drag marks head towards our southern boundary. Unfortunately, we'll track them for as far as we can. There they are, back on the road again. Turn my game drive comes on for a second. Jumps. You can see the tracks come from outside of our traverse area. So unfortunately, nothing. But I just got a report from James. I'm just trying to get hold of. James, Indiana, Moyen. Wondering.
Go ahead.
Copy, I got that update from FC. What's your position?
I'm now on Central Junction 1.
Copy. Also going to make my way into there to give you a hand. I am on Shabam, heading towards Philemon's pipeline. So, apparently there's leopard audio around the lodge. So James is racing from that direction. I'm racing from this direction. Fingers crossed we can have a kitty cat. I'm sorry, squirrel. Squirrel got fried. But unfortunately, wherever that impala was killed is outside of our traverse zone. And for those of you wondering about wild dog, they have been found this morning, but very far from us in the north. We're on a bit of a Ferrari safari at the moment to try and get into that area where the leopard was calling. Hopefully, whether it's male or female, I have no idea yet, but hopefully it calls when we're close by so we can pinpoint its location. Sabrina, who's 12 years old. A very big welcome on Safari Live this morning. Sabrina would like to know how long did it take us to learn about all the animal tracks. Sabrina, we never stop learning. We learn new stuff every day. A lot of it we've been taught by some incredible Shangaan trackers over the years that we've worked in this area. And I've also fortunately learned quite a lot from Bushman trackers in Botswana. So you never stop learning, and one of the most important things, if you see something like happen, like even a bird track or whatnot, go look at it, and that's how you learn. unusual to have leopard audio this late in the morning. It could be the female is looking for some loving, and female leopards, when they are looking for mates, are very vocal. And as we know, female leopards are very, very promiscuous as well, often mating with up to 4 or 5 males during an estrus cycle. A very important reason for that. That is to convince all the male leopards in the area that they're the father of those cubs. There we go, look at that. We're back on that. It's incredible. As I said, it's going towards the hyena den. So here's this drag mark. It's come past the old hyena den and it's heading straight to the new hyena den. So if we have no luck with the leopard, it might be worth going to see if that impala is at the den and they're feeding on us. So I just need to listen to this.
I went to the river and go around coming out trying to check another time. But just find it was just calling the number just right there. Yeah, that's where it goes.
Sorry guys, I'll be with you in a second. Just getting an update from Tax who heard the audio. Okay, I'm on quarantine now. I'll check Gallagher Pan to WildEarth.
Yeah, I also tried to check
So James, Tax and I are all in the area, and as I say many times, finding animals is a team effort. So the fact that we've got 3 vehicles searching in a relatively small area for a leopard increases our chances of finding it exponentially. The drag marks went off that way. And actually, I wonder if James has seen, he's on the road that goes to the new hyena den. In the south of the reserve, and it seems the leopard came to camp. Always happens like that, it seems. Sends us rushing around. There's Mama Z! Smile, Mama Z, you're on TV! So that's Mama Z, who looks after us and keeps us all in order. Bye! Bye. Make sure we don't get too untidy. Searching for this leopard. Good morning to Carolyn in the Windy City, Chicago. Carolyn would like to know about the difference in animals' feet, specifically. I think you're talking about predators, the pads. She would like to know if they're different thickness. I'd say yes, depending on the size of them, but also very interesting. You can tell the difference of it between a leopard or a hyena or a lion track. There are slightly different shapes, and a leopard and lion have 3 little lobes at the back of their track. Hyena only have 2. Cheetah have 3, but they have visible claws where leopard and lion don't. So there's lots of little different nuances between the tracks. this is the area where that leopard audio was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go have a quick look at the Gallagher shortcut and then maybe stop and listen there. So as I said, your ears are often more important in finding leopards and lions and other predators than your eyes. Of course, spotting them also helps, but getting in the right area is generally done by your ears.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick listen.
Looks like they're heading more east, but still around here.
Even listening to the ground calls of tiny little birds, often found leopard thanks to testiculars, to waxbills, to dwarf mongoose. You spot us a leopard. You're falling very far behind Tebs on the leopard spotting from Cameroon point of view. So you notice I'm just letting the freewheel engine off. I've got a much better chance of hearing something like this. Waterhole. Maybe it's a thirsty leopard. Well, definitely not a leopard here. Some kudu. About to have a drink. So this is quite good news when it comes to looking for leopard, knowing where some of the potential prey species are. And kudu are some of the best at spotting predators, and they've got an incredibly loud and deep alarm call that can be heard from quite far. So we've almost got our watchman in position around the waterhole. If the leopard was to come this way, we would hear them barking.
Because they're running parallel to the same boundaries to the north.
You can see how nervous they are when they approach a waterhole. I don't want to go too much closer, it'll probably disturb them and make them move away. You can see even though they have a quick sip. Look around. So always checking. Even though they're very thirsty, it pays to be cautious.
Where I think that we might be somewhere there, but we are not sure of that on the list. Maybe we can try to drive again around all this road because the cars are also not going to come out.
So we're just listening very carefully at the moment, hoping to hear some alarm calls. You can see why kudu are such good spotters. They're very, very alert animals, and they've got those radar dish ears.
Just looking more towards that Djuma Dam. So maybe we might go west along that Djuma Dam towards this road side.
Oh, listen to that. Woodpecker beating on a tree. From how loud it is, it's probably one of the bigger wood species, either golden-tailed or bearded. It reverberates through the very still morning. What you found, Andrew?
Just looking for that woodpecker.
Looking for the woodpecker.
No success.
Yes, it's over there. Behind the kudu. In that combretum would be my guess. That tree there.
It was a long shot. It was a long shot.
It sounds like it's in there. Actually, I think I've spotted it, Ash. Let me just have a quick look. I've got the woodpecker, Andrew. It's a bearded woodpecker. Okay, now come out of it. To the right, there's a dead tree. That one there. There we go. There's the woodpecker and it's a bearded woodpecker.
Well spotted.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully he does a bit of pecking for us. Very specially designed skull in woodpeckers. It's almost, they have to have a shock absorber so their brain doesn't rattle loose when they are looking for wood borer beetles. There we go. Looks like he's got... Isn't that incredible? So woodpeckers, you'll quite often see them in dead branches or dead trees, and it's after the larvae of wood borer beetles and longhorn beetles that bore into the wood, and are big, fat, white, juicy grubs if you're a woodpecker, and a really good meal. So no further alarm calls yet. Sean on Twitter says that woodpecker makes it. Come to the kudu quickly. A very good, intense soundtrack for a leopard hunt. Suddenly she's got really focused in on something. I just saw a little bit of movement in that bush there, but I think it was an impala she spotted, but just that little bit of movement changed her completely. I did see something move. Let's just go forward a little bit. If it was a leopard, oh, there it is. Okay, Andrew, go back and see what it is. Could be a bushbuck or a impala, I think. So just to the left of this very small combretum that's been eaten by the eddies. I think it's moved. Just keep going. Okay. Now go. There we go. You're in. Now, see on the right-hand side, there's a dark tree. There we go. Right there, next to it. Look there. There's movement there. There's a leg of a bushbuck. Or an impala. You can see the stripes. So there we go. That's what that kudu spotted. I was very much hoping, and she's still not 100% sure what it is, so she's staring at it very intently to try figure out whether it's a potential danger or not. It isn't. Oh, Andrew just had a kill right next to us. Okay. What's he got in his mouth there? Oh, a big one. No, that's not what you were eating earlier, Chief. There we go. A big, looks like a mole cricket that hornbill caught and dug out of the ground. And then if he goes with a very big meal for a hornbill, and if we come down to the front of the kudu, oh, watch where it lands. There we go. Another nice, very pretty little bird. It's off it goes. Cinnamon-breasted bunting. Oh, there's a few of them on the right-hand edge there. Oh, and off they go. Cinnamon-breasted buntings. And we've seen a golden-breasted bunting. I think James saw one yesterday. This is a relation. Very pretty little birds. And that very high-pitched, there we go, that is another woodpecker calling. Jose, where is it? Jose in Virginia would like to know how strong a woodpecker's beak is to penetrate that wood. So Jose, quite often they're feeding on quite soft wood. It's quite rotten, and made even more so by the constant boring of the beetle larvae. But it still is very strong. I wouldn't know what to compare it with. I wouldn't say it's as strong as steel, but definitely is stronger than the wood it's boring into. We're just going to do a quick loop here around to Mvubu Road. James and Tax are checking to the west and south of us. Andrew, time for a test. Okay. See the butterfly? As it's warmed up. Okay, so go zoom in. Yes, well done, Andrew. There we go. It looks like a little scarlet tip or a sulfur tip or an orange tip. There we go. We'll wait for it to open its wings. So that is my big mission of this summer season, is to try find and identify as many butterflies as we can. And it really keeps the cameramen on their toes. It's not probably one of the most difficult things to film out here in the bush is a butterfly.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Andrew's on it. Come on, we need you to open your wings a little bit so we can identify you. But it is one of the orange tips or scarlet tip butterflies. So little white butterflies that generally have a bright orange, bright red, even sometimes a bright turquoise top tip to their wing. Looks like it's feeding off a little justicia, which is a type of flower, very small flower. But we have seen them before, and not opening his wings just yet. And we are on the hunt for leopards. While hunting for leopards, it's always good to hunt for the odd butterfly. Now this one, Andrew, is going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah, Andrew, let's start on that little piece of buffalo dung. I think it's... There's that stick, okay. Now let's come across to the left. Wait, no, don't go in too tight. Out a little bit. Come more to the left. Okay, stop there. See if I can still see it. Okay, yes. And there's two little tussocks of grass. Zoom. Maybe it's two different tussocks right there. No, okay, so it's a little bit to the right. Keep coming. And stop. And center frame, zoom. Keep zooming. You got it now?
No.
Right in the middle, just slightly to the right of the screen, in the middle.
Oh, yes.
It's one of the tiny little blues. So quite often these butterflies will have really, really pretty colors on the inside of their wings. And then this dull, drabby color on the outside. And that means this butterfly is probably good to eat if you're a bird. So when they land, they want to be as inconspicuous as possible. So, and you can see how perfectly it matches the surrounding soil. And look at that, just absolutely disappears. So it's not one we've seen before, but it is one of the little blue species, and there are hundreds of them, and they're very difficult to identify. But we'll take a screenshot and see if we can figure out what it is. Send it off to my herpetologist friend. As it's warming up a little bit, we're going to start seeing more butterflies. They're in the cool early part of the morning. There's a bit too much dew, so their wings are a bit heavy, so they don't fly around too much. So as they dry off and before it gets too hot, there should be quite a lot of butterfly activity. I've got a sneaky suspicion the leopard hasn't gone this way. I think it's gone further to the west. So we're going to keep double checking because Tax and James are in that area. But if we get no luck around here, we'll also go join them in that spot. There's some monkeys apparently on the Djuma Dam cam. So if the leopard was there, they would be making an incredible racket. We found the same hyena drag marks again. Look at that, still going, and that's from that same direction. So we are quite close to the den. While James and Tax keep looking for that leopard, it might be worth our while. Just going to go have a quick look at the hyena den. Well done to Jared on Twitter. He's asking, was that a red-billed hornbill that had that looked like a mole cricket in its jaws or its beak? Yes, Jared, it was. So well done on identifying that bird. From where that drag mark that the hyenas have been dragging what I think is more than likely, I'm about 80% sure, a male impala, from where we had that drag entering Djuma to where we've just crossed that drag now, it's probably about 4 or 5 kilometers. So, and we don't know how long it was before then, and by the time we get to the hyena den, it'll probably be about 6 kilometers that we've seen that drag. I'm really hoping we find that leopard this morning. I didn't have any leopard yesterday. We can't go too long without getting our kitty cat fix. So a big welcome to Joel in New York, who I'm guessing is a new viewer. So welcome, Joel. Joel would like to know whether we get kangaroos in South Africa. Joel, we don't. They are endemic to Australia, a very long way away from here, across the ocean. They are a marsupial, and Australia is the only place you'll find marsupials. We don't have any in Africa. So no, we do not have any kangaroos. We have leaping impala. The closest thing, or closest looking thing to a kangaroo we have is a funny little creature called a spring hare, which is like a cross between a rat and a kangaroo. Lots of little impalas here. Just going to listen again quickly. Oh. Did they spot something, or they're just being nervous Nellies? I think they're just being nervous Nellies. So, Joel, that is the closest thing we have to a kangaroo in Africa, or in this part of Africa, is a spring hare. Yeah. So check in with no further updates on that leopard audio. So let me just get hold of Tax and James, see where they're checking. James. What's your position?
I'm Gallagher, shortcut junction, Hyena Dam. I didn't move into the block there to come up with anything.
Copy. If you're at the Hyena Den already, have a look. There's been a drag mark from Gary Main that is coming straight towards the Hyena Den. It's quite fresh. I'll go up around Aubrey's and back down to internet access again. So, James has been walking, trying to find that leopard in the block. No luck yet, and he's right near the Hyena Den, so I've said, go have a look, see if that impala's there. And we're going to go a little bit wider, sort of make the circle bigger that we're searching in. While we make the circle bigger, let's go see James. He can give you an update on his walkabout, and hopefully he can find what's at the Hyena Den. Hopefully there is a carcass there.
Right, everybody. So I went for a long walk just to see if I could find tracks of the leopard. The taxon heard calling around here. He was sitting here at the Hyena Den when he heard and I went for a long walk into the area. I didn't see anything. That's not to say the leopard isn't there. So we've just come to check the hyena den, especially on the back end of Brent's information that there was a drag mark heading this way. There's one hyena on the top there, and I'll just go around the other side to have a look, but otherwise all is very quiet here. Anyway, it was a magnificent little walk I went on. I found tracks of a honey badger, no tracks of the leopard, but like I say, that's not to say that he wasn't in there somewhere, probably watching me. And also, just so wonderful to see Tebs as we go past here, this cloud building to the south, and I just love the colour of it. The colour of the sun with the grey cloud, I think it makes the most beautiful colours. A wonderful kind of slightly expectant atmosphere around the place, as opposed to the searing welding torch heat that we've been used to over the last little while. So, pop around here. Now, the interesting thing that Brent and I have followed drag marks of hyenas that have pulled carcasses sort of 2 or 3 kilometers. Gowrie Main Road is a long way away from here, though. And so I would have been really, truly amazed if a hyena had arrived here, having pulled something that far. But it's not impossible, and of course Corky is a very dominant hyena, and so she will start to bring stuff back to the den for her cubs fairly soon, I would think. There she is. That is Corky herself sitting on top of the den there. So there's young Corky. And Jim, you want to know if I've ever seen a living honey badger and how often they're seen on safari. Jim, I've seen plenty of living honey badgers. They are secretive. They're also largely nocturnal, and that's why we don't see a huge number of them on our little safaris. But they're around, and we see their tracks all the time. But certainly they're possible to see. So we're at the den. I think it was active earlier. And now just Corky here standing nursemaid and guard over the den, and the rest of them have gone off, probably lying in the shade close by, the mothers, and the rest off foraging about the place, and they'll go down to ground and rest, I think, for much of the day now. I'm fascinated to know where that drag mark went and what it was, of course. But I suppose we are not going to find that out just yet. So no food seems to have been brought here, and as we know, normally what happens is that only the dominant females will bring food back to the den because they can dominate feeding situations. Subordinates don't bring food back to the den normally because they'll normally have it pinched. So they will normally eat where they find the food, and that will convert into milk energy, and that will then be brought back to the den for the cubs to drink. So that's generally how it works. So not much going on here. Instead of, I'm not going to sit here for long. I think we're going to probably move out now and just try and carry on trying to find this male leopard. The block that I walked into, while very beautiful for walking, it will be an absolute nightmare to try and drive in. So I think we'll drive around the roads there, but I think we're going to struggle to get in there in the vehicle, certainly for traffic. But we'll drive around the other side, and if he's marking territory, he's calling. What that means is he's marking territory, and if he's marking territory, he's probably moving. It hasn't got too hot yet. It's still a fairly pleasant temperature, so he might still be moving along marking territory. We might be lucky to pop out on the road, or a pan or something like that. Goodbye, Corky. Enjoy your day. Don't strain yourself. Larry, a very nice question in California, especially relevant to the time of year that we are and the sort of environmental conditions with a lack of rain. You want to know how long a scent mark will last? Larry, quite a long time. I mean, by way of example, I don't know if you've ever had a house cat that has sprayed urine in your house. You can do what you like to the carpet or the curtain where that cat has gone to the loo. The smell will never quite go away. I think it's very similar with the wild cats out here. So as long as there's no rain, what you find is that the scent will stick. And there hasn't been a lot of rain, and I truly believe that that is one of the reasons our cat sightings have dipped slightly in the last little while. The cats are simply not moving as much as they might normally because there's no rain, and so if they're in a block like this, which is a big block in front of us, if they're in there and they've got stuff to eat, they're not going to spend an enormous amount of time knocking about trying to mark their territories, given that, you know, the scent is probably still lasting. And I think the same goes for the hyenas as well. And so I think their movements will change according to the rain. You know, they will have to go and remark their territories every so often. But certainly after rain, what you do find is that the cats will get out and start remarking their boundaries, which is quite interesting. Nice one. Thank you, Larry. The one thing that I did find in the block and on my pretty little walk was about 7 million flies. There are lots of flies around. They don't seem to mind the drought at all. And I wish those European bee eaters we were chatting about a little earlier would come through and eat all of them. They are extremely irritating, and some of them have got little biting mouth parts. So they'll sit on your leg, and when you've got an insubstantial leg like mine, I mean, you can't really afford to be losing too much flesh to flies. Draw blood. They sort of tickle you a little bit, and you think, oh, that's not too bad. And then they stick their little mouth parts into you. It's very unpleasant. Now, there are a number of hyena dens around the place, and Safari Dean, you want to know if they'll be used by other mothers. Yes, they certainly will, Safari Dean. That, I think, is the central den at the moment because it's got the most cubs. But what you'll find is quite often they will give birth in a sort of peripheral den and then bring the cubs when they're about 2 weeks old back to the main den. Well, that's certainly what happened with Corky. And so, and I meant to actually yesterday, I said we should go and check the Philemon's dip cut line. I did see what looked like a very pregnant female the other day. So maybe we'll pop down there and do that now. We're not too far from the Aubrey's Road den as well. Might be also worth having just a quick stick our noses in there. Also, I mean, leopards will go and check the dens. They'll go and just see if anything's around there, and they'll sneak up. And if there are unattended cubs, a big male leopard will take them. They are not afraid of eating other carnivores, are the leopards. Jose, you're in Virginia, and we're talking about big cats, and you want to know about little cats. Do we have little cats here? Yes, we do. We actually have the immediate ancestor of the domestic cat, and that is Felis libica, the African wild cat. And if you look at a picture of an African wild cat, they look almost identical to kind of a house tabby, but for the fact that they've got slightly longer legs and they've got red behind the back of their ears. And they are the original, they were the cats that were domesticated originally by the Egyptians that have spawned just about every single domestic breed in the world, I think, as far as I understand it. A bit like the wolf eventually spawned all the domestic dog breeds that we find around the place now. So that's the African wildcat. Then we get a serval, which, I mean, to the uninitiated looks like a very small leopard. Sort of slightly bigger than house cat sized, golden coat with lots of black spots. Beautiful, beautiful cat with huge ears. They really are very stunning indeed. And then the other little one we get, well, little-ish one, is, just looking for tracks, is the caracal. And a caracal is the most obvious example, or the most obvious way to describe it to you would be to say a lynx. It looks like a lynx. It's kind of shortish, squat, quite powerfully built, with a short tail and those distinctive ear tufts. And in Afrikaans it's called a rooikat, or red cat, and it's got a really kind of beautiful chestnut colour. Not common here. We do find them. I haven't ever seen one here at Djuma, but I know they have been seen. Serval we do see. African wildcat not often. Again, they're largely nocturnal. And when you've got the amount of hyena and leopard and lion activity, well, not so much lion, leopard and hyena activity, there's a herd of buffalo around the place that we do here, you'll find cats like caracal, and caracal and wildcat and serval will be largely nocturnal, and they'll be very secretive. This is that small herd of buffalo I think we saw yesterday, unless it's the big herd that's been coming out of Buffelshoek. Let's have a look. This will be our third mammal of the day. James Richard, not on the subject of buffalo, but certainly the subject of one of the world's ugliest mammal. You want to know about naked mole rats and if we find them here. James, I do not believe that we do. I think that as far as I understand it, James, they're only a desert species. And of course, we're not in the desert, although it certainly feels like that at times. I'll just try and find a picture of a naked mole rat for you, see if I've got one. I don't know that I do. A naked mole rat, everybody, is like a sort of almost a mammalian termite. They live in colonies, they're completely naked, completely blind, and they live under the ground in places like the Kalahari Desert, and they are very disconcerting looking. This is the closest I can get. We'll just have a quick look here. There is a golden mole. It doesn't look really like a mole rat, but it's sort of a bit like that. But totally hairless. Pink, huge teeth that they use to gnaw through roots and things, and closed eyes. They really are quite astonishingly unattractive creatures. A naked mole rat, not really found here. So we've got it's not a huge herd of buffalo. I think this is probably that sort of herd of about 100 that we saw last night, and they're moving slowly towards Sydney's Dam, which is some of the last remaining water that we have here, and that's just inside Buffelshoek. And there's also a little herd of zebra coming for the right there, Tebs. And miraculously, quite unlike the cheetah, the wild dog and the lions coming out of Buffelshoek and into Djuma. Let us be grateful to the zebra. Very, very peaceful, wonderful atmosphere this morning. You can just hear the drongos going, chip, 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 chip. That's all you can hear. The zebra have decided that they don't like Djuma. They're going back to Buffelshoek. Let's just drive slowly through there. This is the sort of fire break, this sort of clearing area here. A very small herd of buffalo. This is not large at all. There's a stallion getting very upset there, chasing a mare and a foal around the place. Can be very vicious, can zebra. Don't go anywhere, chaps, come on. There, this is a different sort of kinship group, I think. Unless that was their stallion, he was chasing some others away. Much underrated are the zebra. I think they're absolutely magnificent creatures. Unique social structure. the only herbivore out here that has a kind of harem structure, stable harem structure with a dominant stallion and his wives, 3 or 4 wives. Here come the warring. Here comes the warring party to the left. Don't know what was going on there. That's a mare in front. It's a stallion behind there, and you can see his ears flat back on his head. That if you've had anything to do with horses, you know that that is a very angry kind of a pose. He's the one at the back there. There, now he's looking forward. He looks a bit happier. Let's see what they do. And I say they can be vicious. I mean, an unrelated infanticide is quite a high cause of death in the foals. So I don't know why he was chasing them. That might be the foal of another stallion, but I doubt it. So he's obviously the dominant around here. That little foal is very sweet. Spindly little leggies. Jerry's just pointing out, and it's quite a nice point, not so much with the foal we were looking at, but that one there, Tebs, is much browner than the parents. And I initially thought that was simply because she'd been rolling, but there's no very red mud here. And I think that's just a function. I think that you probably find that those stripes get darker as they get older. And I mean, there will be some variation, but definitely very brown stripes, not very black at all. It's quite interesting. It's not common either, I don't think. So we've got the 2 foals there. There's the red one there that you can see, and then to the right of that, another one which is totally black and white, no brown at all. It is fascinating. I wonder why. The buffalo are just grazing up behind us. It's quite fun. I so enjoy it when animals just don't worry about us at all. And that brown foal is now suckling. Tebs, I don't know how close in you can get there. It always looks like the most awkward thing to try and do. As a horse or a zebra, the angle at which you've got to bend your head to suckle is astonishing. And there it's just confirming the difficulty with which that foal is having to kind of move its lips around. That's not easy. That's interesting. Swapping from teat to teat, only 2 teats, and swapping from one to the other for each mouthful. That is very interesting. But look at the angle its poor foal's got to hold its head at. And as soon as she takes a step back or forward, it becomes totally impossible for the foal to drink. None of this kind of human feeding behavior where you have these set times and then a special chair for feeding your child and a special cloth and a nappy and a this and that newfangled kind of equipment. No, out here you just walk along, and if your baby wants to drink, it must make a plan. That is a very brown young colt. Now, Mobile Paddy, I'm not sure I've heard from you before. Mobile Paddy, lovely to hear from you. You want to know, you say horses and donkeys have been domesticated, but zebras never truly domesticated. Why not? Simple answer, Mobile Paddy. they're nasty. They're very nasty animals, and that's simply because they've grown up or they've evolved with human beings. They have a natural fear of us, and therefore if you corner a zebra, it becomes very unpleasant to you. And mobile paddy, apparently they cause more injuries to zookeepers around the world than any other animal. That includes tigers and lions, and so they just are very nasty creatures. I know it has been tried a few times, I think with some success. I think there was some lord or other, I forget if it was in London or Cape Town, who managed to get himself a whole stable full of zebras, and he pulled his cart through town with them. But I think you would have found that his grooms would have been severely injured along the way of trying to create that situation for them. They are very nasty indeed. The backs apparently are not quite as strong either as horses, but still. There was that ridiculous film called Racing Stripes, which had the little zebra that was sort of masquerading as a racehorse, and that was a very young animal they had in that film. It was a real zebra, but it looked like a very young one.
Aubrey, where are you going to be checking?
So Geraldine, who is now operating multi-skilling up a storm in the final control, says that it is possible. Apparently the brownness in zebra calves is not uncommon, but nobody really knows why. I suspect then that the stripes will go black. So in foals it's apparently not uncommon. And that's just being confirmed now. They apparently do get darker as they get older. Now, Tammy, this is a common query that you've asked, and it's an interesting one. But if you think about it, it's not actually that astounding. You say, is it true that every zebra has a unique stripe pattern? Absolutely, it's true. But Tammy, if they all had an identical stripe pattern, don't you think that would be far more amazing than if they didn't? So if you think of any other species, be it a tree, be it a buffalo or a human being, nothing looks exactly the same as its peers. I mean, impala, yes, maybe you could say they look very similar, but nothing with any kind of coloration in the mammal world or in the tree world looks identical. And for them to have totally identical stripes, I think would be completely remarkable. So, yep, totally true. They've got completely unique stripe patterns. And you can see that. You just have to look at two of them standing together. Some have thin stripes, some have fat stripes. They meet in different places. The stripes, I mean. Jared, your question about will a foal inherit some of its mother's and father's stripe patterns? Yeah, I mean, definitely. Otherwise, it wouldn't have stripes. So, I mean, that's not a facetious answer. It's just to try and say that, of course, the stripes that a foal has will come from the genetic combination of its mother and father. Whether you would then be able to recognize and say, well, you see the third stripe from the top next to the shoulder bone, that she gets from her mother. I'm not sure. You probably could, you know, if you studied them carefully enough, you could probably do that. But it's certainly not obvious. I wouldn't try and make a call as to whether one was related to another based on the stripes. So we look at the mother and the foal there. He lies down, very tired. I'm not sure that we can say their stripes are that similar. But you can. It'd be interesting to see them as adults, two pictures. I suppose if they've got lots of thin stripes, you might find that their offspring would have lots of thin stripes. Or very stripy legs versus not so stripy legs. Nice question, thanks, Jared. Now, most zebra, of course, can sleep standing up, just like a horse. And we're watching them the little one lie down now, and Lev, you're from Brooklyn, and you want to know if the mare will ever lie down. Oh, look at them playing. That's quite sweet. If the mare will ever lie down to offer the foal more direct access to the teats. No, they won't. They don't lie down for that. I've never seen a zebra lying down while it suckles. Never seen a horse do that either. As far as I know, they don't. You can just see the light starting to fade slightly. That's as this cloud bank sort of makes its way overhead. It's perfect timing from the cloud bank, just before it can get hot. Look at those little things having a little sort of a mutual grooming session. That's very important for social bonding. Become familiar with each other, and it's also play behavior. It looks like one's just teasing the other. I'm getting cross now. Just leave me alone, it said. I think we've all had that feeling. It was Lord Rothschild who had his cart pulled by a zebra. Thank you for that, X-Ranger. And X-Ranger, where was that? I think it was in... I'm not sure if it was London or Cape Town. I think it was London. But the effort of having to transport the zebra over there and then train them to pull a cart, I have no doubt that many peasants were injured during the course of creating the photographs that eventually were to be seen on the internet of Lord Rothschild and his zebra-pulled cart. I think you'd be very hard-pressed these days to find a worker that'll do that for you. And apparently Lord Rothschild even visited the Queen at Buckingham Palace in his zebra-drawn cart. I'd love to know the backstory to that and how many people were injured. It would seem that Lord Rothschild was something of an eccentric. He also used to apparently try and ride a giant tortoise. Where he found that? Probably in Madagascar, or in Mauritius maybe, or at least the Seychelles. Fairly odd bod. People have been very fast riding a tortoise around London. Wouldn't want to do it these days. So this little herd of buffalo is now almost totally silently moved off towards Buffalo's Hook here. And now there's great consternation amongst the zebras. They're having a bit of a fight. Interesting. You can get the idea. You get an idea there of why they're called Equusquacha. And they get that name from their call. That doesn't take much to set them off. Right, Leo Smith has found a far more impressive herd of buffalo apparently than this one. Let's head across to him. He's at the Djuma Dam. I'm going to continue circling this area and hope that we just that we see that male leopard that was calling earlier. See you shortly.
So I just got the report from Final Control about the buffalo that arrived at the Djuma Dam cam, and look at this. It's quite a large herd, at least 200. I can't see the front, but I'm going to say at least 200 so far. And they've finished their drink and they're moving off, and you can actually see how they flatten an area, and that's really, really good for the bush. So you need a hoof action of big herds of buffalo. Turn over the soil and put grass seeds in a good position. Also, mobile fertilizers and lawn mowers. So as a big herd of buffalo moves through there, constantly defecating, using their hooves to turn up the soil. So very, very important part of the ecosystem. We're very dusty at the back, so what I'm doing is I'm going to try to get ahead of them and stop and let them walk around us. But this is a very nice big herd. And hopefully when we've got these big herds of buffalo, hopefully there's some lions not too far behind them. The sound of a big herd of buffalo going brr, 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 is like the equivalent of the ice cream truck driving past the front of your house to your small children. So hopefully this big herd of buffalo will entice some lions back to Djuma. We haven't seen lions in a while. Large herd of buffalo mobile south from the Djuma Dam. Sorry, Untitled Dam. So a big thank you to all the viewers who sent us updates on the big buffalo herd. And you're all very happy to come spend some time with these buffalo. Me too. Love a big herd of buffalo. So we're just going to try and get up ahead of them now. Oh, bouncy, bouncy. Wouldn't it be nice if a nice big male lion, or a couple of big male lions are hot on their tracks? Let's see if we can see the front runners. I can. Probably about 300, not the biggest herd we get in this part of the world when it's dry, but still a really nice big herd. Definitely the biggest herd we've had on Djuma for a while. At this time of the year, you don't normally see the dust coming off a herd, but in Botswana, where I used to live, and we used to get herds of well over 1,000 regularly, you actually used to find them by this huge wall of dust, and you can actually see the dust through there coming off the herd as they move. So I have lots of different ages. Hopefully there's some little ones we might see. Buffalo don't have a particular breeding season. They give birth throughout the year. And they have quite a special adaptation or skill that is very, very useful to a herd, that is an animal that's almost constantly on the move. It's one of the few animals where the calves are able to suckle while moving. So they walk between their mom's back legs and they do suckle while on the move. unfortunately, it is quite risky in terms of being defecated on. So you quite often find little baby buffalo with poo on their heads. And she's got a broken horn. Or it's a young bull. Actually, that's not a broken horn, that's a deformed horn. So, a birth deformity. And not that uncommon in buffalo to see different horn shapes and sometimes deformities. There's a nice bull, prime bull. You can see that big boss. So you can see how much better looking he is than the old Duggar boys we normally see. So he's still in his mating prime and hasn't been pushed out of the herd. Or he's one of the ones who's pushed the old bulls out of the herd. And, they found a convenient marula to scratch on. So Razzo, who's on Twitter, wonders if we ever get stampedes. Yes, these guys stampede quite frequently when chased by lions. So not quite. Oh, there's another. Look at that. There's an old saying, buffalo always look at you like you owe them money. So it looks like my plan is going to work. And as the buffalo move, oh, look at that. Look at that one scratching there, Andrew. Oh, jumped off. It almost straddled that fallen marula to have a good stretch. Now it's going to have a belly scratch. Try to remove some of those ectoparasites. So apparently you guys can hear something that sounds like a lion roaring in the distance. Unfortunately it's not. It seems to be a noise coming from the vehicle itself. I would love it if it was a lion roaring. But so my plan is works. It looks like the buffalo are literally going to slipstream around us. So go on both sides of us. One runs, they all run. And I'm not sure whether that was from us. I think it was from the buffalo behind us were having a little argument. And one lost and sort of stampeded off, and it set them all to stampede off. You can see that dust now. Now you can imagine if 300 of them run at the same time, what a large column of dust they will create. And you can see a lot of different horn shapes in a herd like this, and they are quite a lot of different ages. So I'm heading south now, and buffalo have to drink daily. So in a drought like this, you can see there's quite a few of them that are not in the best condition. Good for the lions, not so good for the buffalo. And in drought times, your lion populations in this area generally increase by up to about 10%. There you go. Someone gave the order. It's time to march again. So I'd say probably around 300 or so. Just always keep a careful lookout for yellow-billed oxpeckers when we're with a big herd of buffalo. See, there's one that's not in the best condition. Directly in front of us now, that one there. And you can see, not looking too healthy. It's not a particularly old animal. Already the hips are starting to show. And that'll be the stress of having to move big distances between water and food. and quite often it is the young animals and the old animals that suffer. And it's not bad, it's actually quite good for an animal population. It quite often removes any weaknesses. So what they're likely to do now is they'll keep moving to an area they want to feed in, and as it gets more and more hot, they will lie down and ruminate. Faye in Canada would like to know if there's any way to identify specific buffalo herds from one another. Sometimes you'll have very unique horn, and there's a buffalo with a fungal infection eating its skin there. Also another common thing in the big herds. And also a young animal. So as probably lack of condition, all those type of things start playing a role. But Kay, in Canada, it's very difficult to try identify different herds. Obviously, there'll be different horns that certain individuals have, but these herds are quite malleable. They'll break up and join and form and break up. So buffalo herds are quite, as I said, malleable. So they could have some individuals now, then the individual could move to another herd. There's another old cow not looking too good. Here come some of the little ones. I think I can hear some alarm calls. We can get hold of James and find out where he is. James.
Yeah.
James, it sounds like some Inyala barking around Gallagher Waterhole.
Copy that. I'm approaching Gallagher Waterhole now. I haven't heard anything, but might be the engine. I'll switch off when I get there.
Copy, thanks. So James is in the area where I think those alarm calls are, so we're not going to rush off. We're going to stay with the buffalo. Still a few more coming. The stragglers, quite often you'll find there's some nice big bulls with the stragglers. So we have a comedian watching this morning. Carol says that line of buffalo looks like Walmart on payday. This looks through. Oh, there's still a few more coming. Oh, left behind, jogging in. Don't want to be left behind. You get left behind, you become lion food. So on quite a few of the buffalo, you see sort of white patches below the eye. There we can see that on that female, that she puts her head behind the branch. And Gilly and Milwaukee are wondering what are those and what purpose do they serve. Those are pre-orbital glands, Gilly. So the same thing we see quite often on wildebeest, and on Steenbok is actually probably the most prominent pre-orbital gland, and on Ellie's, the thing we see weeping. So as far as I know, there's no sort of scent marking function with buffalo in that, but you probably find it is connected to hormones and estrus and things like that. But Gilly, you've put me on the spot. I'm going to have to go do a bit of research on buffalo pre-orbital glands when I get home now. and unfortunately the remote blocker Rusty is functioning again, so I'm unable to start the car. So while I have to turn off everything and to start the car, let's go see what James is up to. Oh, it's good thinking.
We're live. Brent needs to start his car, of course, and that is because the recalcitrant Rusty deserves basically to be beaten. It's astonishing to me that the engineer who came up with that system is still employed. With Land Rover, I mean. Anyway, we are coming through this area past the Gallagher Waterhole, where Brent said he heard some alarm calling nyalas. I was hoping that maybe that leopard had popped out. The nyalas that we saw looked deeply at peace with life, and so maybe it wasn't around here that he heard them, but it could have been, and so we're just searching through here. We're not too far from where Tex thought he heard the leopard calling earlier, and I didn't come up with any further tracks, I'm afraid. So we're going to head back towards the Djuma Dam, see if we can't find those wildebeest and see what they're doing. So wonderful. I mean, like I've said before, one of the major advantages of not having too many lions about the place is that the young wildebeest tend to make it beyond 2 weeks old. Lions feast upon young wildebeest when they're around. Every day they just get a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, and their chances of survival increase hugely. I mean, I've seen 3 or 4 wildebeest calves go down in one day, and when you've only got 9 of them, you know, sometimes you only get one that survives the year. With any luck, this herd, the Djuma herd of wildebeest, will become a veritable migration in the future. Question the other day about the immobilizer and what it is, and just to explain what's going on with Rusty, that's the immobilizer. It's a little computerized button that tells various complicated things in the engine that you are in fact not a thief but the rightful owner of the vehicle, and that you're therefore going to drive it away, so you push that button. It's an anti-theft device, which of course out here in the bush is completely pointless. However, apparently to have it removed from this vehicle, you need to spend more than the worth of the vehicle. Now this car itself is probably worth about $150, and spending upward of about $2,000 having the thing removed just doesn't make a huge deal of sense. Wrangler, that's an interesting one. You want to know if any of the guides here have found or named a new species of animal? No, none of us here have. I seem to remember meeting somebody the other day, though, who found, or maybe I was reading about him. I don't know. I mean, it's quite possible that we could find a moth or a wasp of some sort that would be named after us if it hadn't been discovered before. But mammals are highly unlikely. And for those of you who don't know, X-Wrangler was talking probably about more the Latin name than the common name. I'm trying to think of an obvious mammal example. I can't think of, well, there's Equus burchelli. Here we go. The Burchell zebra, or plain zebra, which are the ones we were looking at there, named after an English naturalist called William Burchell. There are a whole lot of monkeys. And William Burchell was a great collector of species, and he collected a huge number, and some giraffe, it's all happening here. He collected a huge number of species from South America and from Africa. 3 giraffe there. Now, what I'm going to do, everybody, and I'm going to do this while you watch me so you can see what it is, the great trials of my life at the moment. I'm going to try and do a virtual reality slot on these giraffe. So we turn the cameras on. Now, because of course these were designed for the city and not for bashing around in the bushveld, we have to turn one on manually. I'm hoping these giraffe will not abscond at a high speed. If they do, I apologize profusely. I'm just going to sneak quietly around to the front of the car and turn on camera number 5. Hello, Raffies, don't panic. Everything's okay. Monkeys. They took great fright. Right, so now the camera's on. Now we push record on the camera and the remote at the same time. Right, yes, everything is recording. And we walk carefully around to the front of the car again. So far nothing's run away. It's good news. Sit gently and deftly down. Close the car. Start the sound recorder. Check that it's working. Now we have to do something called syncing. Just a clap. That normally makes everything run away, and it hasn't this time. Right, now we're ready to start, everyone. Let's go and look at the giraffe. Over there you can see the monkeys. Now, if you were watching in the virtual reality rig, you'd just turn your head and there you would see the monkeys. And beyond them, the herd of wildebeest, and they're having a drink at the Djuma Dam with their young calves, 9 in all, I think we have now. And then to the left, of course, a little journey of giraffe. 2 females there at the moment, and I think there's a third standing behind the bushes. Let's try and move a little bit closer. 2 more there, 2 cows. So we've got 4 giraffe cows. We'll just stop here. Just let them get used to us. 2 of them coming back through the bush there. You can see slightly silhouetted against the, well, risen sun. Where they are to the east, and then in front of us 2 more cows. And very obviously cows from the fact that their horns are thin and bald. And the other thing you could do if you were watching on this 360-degree show is to look above us and see the sky and the cloud breaking up under the strain of the summer sun that is starting to beat down on the top of it. And the temperature's gone up quite nicely from about 20 degrees this morning, 67 degrees Fahrenheit, probably to about 25 or 26 now, which is about, what is that? It's about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Beautiful giraffe, and they're feeding along the fringes. If you look to the right-hand side, you can see the fringes of this drainage line or dry riverbed where there is a fairly or relatively high water table, and that's why they've probably just popped out of the drainage line here where there's a lot more nutrition or a lot more in the way of green vegetation than there is into the ridgecrest areas off to the left. They're probably going to come and have a drink at some stage today, and that's probably why they're angling towards this area. There's a cow there. Very inquisitive of us. And what she's eating now is something called Ziziphus mucronata, which is a wonderful word, Ziziphus, and it's otherwise known as a buffalo thorn. Very nasty thorns that she doesn't mind at all. And the other one just in front of us there, just watching, almost as fascinated by us as we are by her. Swishing her tail to get rid of the flies. It's the most effective fly swatter there is in the bush. Very peaceful little scene. We're approaching 8 o'clock in the morning now, of course, so the heat is built. Ooh, look at the oxpeckers going round. Had a little bit of a fight, and now they're settling on the car in front there. It's beautiful. We'll just try and move slightly forward, and then I think we'll probably turn around and head towards those wildebeest. getting some updates and reports from the Djuma Dam cam as this giraffe walks off that the warthogs and wildebeest are having a pitched battle over the water. So let's go and have a look there. We're about 30 seconds from it. Come on, giraffes. This is the tree off to the right that the monkeys were sitting in. You can see it's a very nice, easy climbing tree. It's a good one. I might try that one sometime soon. There's a monkey just hiding behind the bushes. There you can see the full extent. We're now sitting on the dam wall, of course, and off to the right, the drainage line that feeds it, and down to the left, away towards the green vegetation through the drainage lines. And some of the last remaining green vegetation that there is. Jackalberry tree we've just gone under. Attractive spillway. Re-sinking there. Now, Howie, you're in Campbell River and you want to know what the tallest tree we get here is. Howie, the tallest tree that we get here in this area is probably a jackalberry, a big jackalberry tree. In South Africa, the tallest tree, I suspect some of the yellow woods that are in the mountains probably must be pretty tall. And we get some exotic blue gums, which are very tall, but we don't really count them. And then baobabs get pretty tall too. Yeah. So anything along the rivers, basically. Some of the acacias get very tall. Right, there we've got some wildebeest off to the left-hand side. I'm not sure where the warthogs have gone. I can't see them at the moment. There, some impala to the left, some wildebeest also, and the young calves. Oh, there's the warthog. Tebs is the warthog way just gone through the drainage line there, just off to the right-hand side. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see that. But apparently that nasty warthog was having a bit of a fight with a baby wildebeest, one of whom is covered in mud. The one there right in front of us is covered in mud, and I wonder if that doesn't have something to do with it. Let's just drive a little closer. They seem to have had enough to drink. Our ibis there, having a drink, to the right. One Ardidar ibis, to be more accurate. Red-billed buffalo weavers' nests overhead. Tebs, you don't need to look at that. And here we are, all the wildebeest. And there they go off onto, there's a nice clearing here, and there's another one beyond to the left there, where they may well go. Some of them still have their umbilical cords hanging from them. And there you can see there's a pretty vicious suckling going on there to the left-hand side. 1, 2, 3. Let's try and recount them. Apparently there were 10 yesterday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here that I can see. And I think I did see 3 in that other little group. We'll go and have a look. Yes, there are 3 there, so there are 10. What is that called? Oh, it's the, looked off to the right here, the water thickneys. And some impala coming down to drink now on the right. Sounds such a plaintive whistle, that. Now, a very good question from Jose in Virginia. You want to know what happened to the hippo that used to live in this pan. Ooh, there's an alarm call behind us. Jose, I don't know where Peter the pan went. He absconded one evening and didn't come back again. Hopefully he found a more salubrious digs than this. I just heard what sounded like a bushbuck making a barking noise. Bah! And we have been following those leopard tracks around here. Ooh, there's a warthog running off. You can see that the impala are now looking very carefully around the place. Let's watch what happens here. The impala, very, very sharp eyes for something like a leopard that might be walking around here. And if they see it, they will alarm call. They will let us know. I'm not sure what they've seen. Certainly a warthog did go running off through where they're looking. Quiet now. That's enough. Here comes another youngish wildebeest, perhaps to have a drink off to the front there. And in the background, of course, straight in front of us, you can see the Waterhole Lodge, part of Djuma. The impala seem to be fairly relaxed now, and I can't hear any more alarm calling, but we will listen. So if you are watching on the VR rig, which most of you will not be, of course, to the left, the baby wildebeest and the adults, and then impala behind us to the right, and a wildebeest to the right now coming down to have a drink. So Vancy in California, that shrieking bird is called a water thickney. It's just I'm not sure why it's calling now. They normally call it night, but it's called a water thickney. That's the more common call. And the wildebeest are trying to drink out of the clean bit of water that there is, but they're not succeeding really. Right, let's just do a little turn around. Brent's got a little carnivore to show you. Let's head across to him.
So, decided to spend some time with my favorite business of mongoose on the quarantine clearings. Wonderful little guys. So they've just got up quite recently on their way out foraging. Oh, there's a little one. Jump, 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 jump. So when they move from between hole and hole, where they think there's possible no bolt holes for danger, they move very quickly over the open ground and to try avoid the predators. And they like to get moving quite late in the morning to try avoid some of the predators. Very incredibly social animal, lots of grooming, and I know a lot of our regular viewers will have heard me talk about how they sort out hierarchy in dwarf mongoose. So they have a very similar social structure to wild dogs, with only the alpha pair breeding, and the rest of the community looks after the youngsters. But when an alpha animal expires, normally the next highest ranking will take its place, unless there are two that are of a very similar ranking, and then they, instead of fighting for that top spot, they basically have a groom off. So who can be the most loving? And sometimes it can last for 2-3 days. They literally groom each other, and the one who is the most loving wins. And they can actually look like they're being drowned at that time, because there's so much saliva on them, they look like they've been dunked in a swimming pool. So dwarf mongoose settle their disputes by licking each other, and who can be the most caring takes that top spot. Oh, she looks very pregnant. So we saw her yesterday, so that looks like the alpha female. You saw that very, very pregnant belly. Oh, so hopefully we should be seeing some very tiny dwarf mongooses, and they're tiny enough as it is, very soon. She looks very, very fat. Let's try to get one last little look at her bulging belly. You can see how big her belly is. Looks like she's going to just lie there catching a bit of sun before she heads out. So we're going to say goodbye from Andrew and myself. I hope you have had a pleasant drive with us. Unfortunately, the cats are still evading us, but there are tracks around. We did have that audio, so hopefully on the Sunset Safari, one of those cats decides to make an appearance. But for the last few minutes, let's go spend some time with James and the baby wildebeest.
Hello everyone, we're back again. Just quickly, was doing a turn off of this, and what I want to do just before we leave you is a count of the wildebeest babies. I thought I counted 10 earlier, but now we can only find 8 of them. But I don't think they could be lost, because there's been nothing around to eat them, of course. So we have 1, 2, 3 over there. In front of us, another 3, that is 6, 3 and 3. And then, mercifully, another 4 just over there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're all here. Present and accounted for, all in fine fettle. No lions to speak of to come and eat them. Maybe a male leopard around, but he'll be lucky to get through the wily defenses of the adults. They're already forming a little social groups, and you can see they're already eating. Some of them are less than a week old, and they're already eating grass. So they won't be weaning very late. I think they wean after about 3 months or so, if that. They start eating grass almost immediately. And you can see the sky is clouded over, but there is some blue sky off to the southeast there. Very pale European roller blue. It's very lovely. And I'm hoping it will remain relatively cool today. But it has been a really very beautiful morning indeed. So, just to give you, before we sign off, just to give you a quick summary of what we've seen. We were trying to find a male leopard around this area, and maybe we'll get hold of him tomorrow, at least this afternoon. And Chris, in Arizona, you want to know what our plans for New Year's Eve are. Well, given that we have to be up at 03:45 on New Year's morning, not a great deal. We are having a prawn braai, prawn barbecue, if you like, just around the corner with the general manager of Waterhole and Djuma, so that'll be very nice. And that's what we're doing. So, big thank you to all of you. We're about to sign off. Thank you, Tebs. A big thanks to Brent and Andrew. The final control of Gerry and Louise. We will see you later on at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Yes, that's correct. Keep your questions and comments coming. Watch the Djuma Dam cam, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye, and stay safe.